Concept 36C is over surface area and volume of spheres. A few definitions before we get started. A sphere is a set of all points in equal distances from a given point. Go ahead and write that down. This point is called the center of the sphere. The intersection between a plane and the center of a sphere is called a great circle. The circumference of a sphere is measured by the circumference of a great circle. Of a great circle of the same sphere. The radius of a sphere is a segment that has one endpoint at the center and the other endpoint on the sphere. The diameter of a sphere is a segment passing through the center with endpoints on the sphere. It is twice the length of the radius, which we know is very similar to the radius and diameter of a circle. A great circle divides the sphere into two hemispheres. Okay. The formula to find the surface area of a sphere is 4 times pi times radius squared. So in our formula, R stands for the radius of the sphere. So in order to apply that, we're going to practice. The first one asks us to find the surface area of this sphere. And the radius, it tells us, is 5 centimeters because it has a endpoint at the center and the other endpoint is on the sphere. So we can create our equation. Surface area is equal to 4 times pi times our radius 5 squared. Now, if I take the pi out for a moment and I just multiply 5 squared and then multiply it by 4, I get 25 times 4, which is 100. And then I can tack the pi on the end of that. And then, of course, my units, centimeters squared, because we are dealing with surface area. Now, this answer is in terms of pi, meaning that pi is written in our answer. Sometimes they will ask, I want your answer in terms of pi. Other times they might ask, give your answer rounded to a certain decimal place. If that's the case, then we will have to multiply 100 times pi. And if you put that in your calculator, 100 multiplied by pi, you should get 314.2. We'll round to 1 decimal place. And again, with your same units, centimeters squared. This answer is considered a rounded decimal. Okay, so again, make sure that you include pi in your answer, meaning you have written pi with your answer when it asks in terms of pi, or if it asks for a decimal rounded to a specific decimal place, you will want to multiply everything together. So both of these answers are equal and both the same. Okay, the next one is asking us to find the surface area of the hemisphere. So we know that the diameter is 2 And we know that half of the diameter is the radius. So that means that the radius r must be 1 foot. So if we use our surface area formula, 4 times pi times radius squared, in terms of pi, we will get 4 pi feet squared. That is the surface area of this entire sphere. We only want the hemisphere, which is half of that sphere. So we need to divide this surface area by 2. So this hemisphere has a surface area of 2 pi. And the units would be feet squared. If they ask you to round this to the nearest decimal place, you would multiply 2 times pi in your calculator, and to 1 decimal place you should get 6.3 feet squared. Both of these answers are equal and both correct. The next formula in this concept is the volume of a sphere. The formula to find the volume of a sphere is down here. 4/3 times pi times radius cubed. So if we write this a little bit bigger, the volume equals 4/3, or 4/3, times pi times your radius cubed to the power of 3. Now this next practice question asks us to find the volume of the sphere with a diameter of 4 inches, and it wants us to give our answer in terms of pi. So our answer will look like this one, for example. We will have pi written in our answer. So if I rewrite our formula, volume equals 4/3 times pi. It tells us our diameter is 4, so that means that our radius must be 2. So we're going to put 2 cubed. And if you put that into your calculator, you should get 2 to the power of 3, and then multiply by 4/3 because we need to leave pi in our answer. So that would give us 32/3 times pi. And we were using inches, so we will be doing inches cubed for volume. So that is our answer in terms of pi for the volume of the sphere. The next question is giving us the radius, which is 3.5 centimeters. To find the volume of this, we just need to plug into our volume formula, 4/3 times pi times 3.5 to the power of 3. This question doesn't specify if they want it in terms of pi or rounded to a decimal place, so I'm going to say let's round it to a decimal place, to 1 decimal place. So if you put all of that into your calculator, you will get 179.6 centimeters cubed. And that would be your answer rounded to the 10th place or 1 decimal place. Now, the last question here states that the surface area is 144 pi centimeters squared, and it wants us to find our diameter of our sphere. So we don't include the diameter in our surface area formula, but we do include the radius, and we know that the diameter is 2 times the radius. So if we use our surface area formula, we can eventually find the diameter from the radius. So to begin, I'm going to write the surface area formula for a sphere, which we found earlier is 4 times pi times radius squared. Now, we don't know our radius like we usually would, but we do know our surface area. So I'm going to plug in 144 pi and for S, which is our surface area, and that's equal to 4 pi r squared. Now we're going to use algebra to solve for r. So the first thing I'm going to do is to get rid of this 4 pi. I'm going to divide by 4 pi on both sides. I have r squared left on the right-hand side. I have a pi on the top and a pi on the bottom, so those cancel. If I have 144 divided by 4, that gives me 36. Then to get r by itself, I need to take the square root of both sides. So that gives me r is equal to 6. So we know that our radius now is 6, but we need to find the diameter. So if our radius is 6, that means that our diameter must be 6 times 2, which we know is 12. And our units on our surface area was centimeters squared, so our diameter is going to be 12 centimeters.